So hello, welcome back to Blake's Den, and this is my 1996 Land Rover Defender 300 TDI pickup, or single cab pickup, or whatever you want to call it really. I've actually had this back on the road a year now, which has gone really fast. The downside of that is that it's needed to go through its MOT again, so it's a roadworthiness test. And bad news, it has failed, but only on two things. So what it's failed on is a bit of welding at the rear and some excessive play in the ball joint on the steering drop arm. So let's have a closer look at what's going on. So down at the front here, this is the ball joint, which has got excessive play in it, and I did replace it last year, but you can see if I get the pry bar under, I mean the whole thing moves anyway, but I can actually got some vertical movement there, which I shouldn't have. So I now need to work out why that is. Is it the fact that I haven't tightened the nut up tight enough? Is it the fact that the ball joint's worn out? Don't suspect that because it hasn't done many miles. Is it the case that this arm is worn on the inside, so the ball joint's got too much play, or is it a case that this drag link is worn? So I need to do some investigations there to see what's going on. Popped the split pin out of that nut and it was tight. It wouldn't go any tighter. So I've actually now backed it off, and I'm going to pop the ball joint apart to see if I can work out what is going on. So right, I managed to get that ball joint separated just using the crowbar and lots of hammering. So now I can then pull this apart and see what we've got going on. So I seem to remember it comes out from the bottom as well. There's a circlip to undo. So let's see what we can get apart. Two-handed lift that. Take that off. Yeah, there's some movement in that. So which suggests it might be in this arm or how it's captivated underneath. So I'm going to continue stripping this down and hopefully we'll find an easy answer. Well, I missed the exact moment when I got the ball joint apart, but you've sort of got the nut which goes on top, the washer. You've got the threaded bit which is still in there, a spring, and then a cup, and then a plate, and then a circlip holding it in. It all looks to be fine, to be honest. My only concern is there might not quite have been enough grease in there, and maybe that grease was needed just to take up that slack. So what I'm going to do, it's a free thing to do. I'm just going to pack it full of grease and put it back together, and I'll see whether that eliminates any of the play. Well, I packed it full of grease, and it felt a lot better. Tightening it up, it still felt a bit loose, so kept knitting it up a bit more. I wouldn't say it was getting tighter. It was almost like the same amount of force or torque required to fasten it. But then that happened. So yeah, made out the finest Chinesium. So I think that might be my problem. It was just a not very good ball joint. So I'll order another one and try fitting a new one. It's now a few days later. The new ball joint has turned up. So I'll get that fitted. And then you can see the temporary lash up I had to make just to move it to this position. So I'll cut all that off and then I'll put the new ball joint in. I also want to remove the inner cup, which is inside here, because, well, I've got it as part of this kit and I'm worried that it might actually be worn out and sort of contributing to the play I'm getting in the ball joint. So to do that, there's a special tool, and it is just a load of bolts and bits and pieces really. So how it goes sort of that bush first, and the big washer, and that goes up like that. That gets dropped down the middle, and then yeah, that nut. So that should go. See, the problem I've got is slipping through there. I think it should bite on there, which is probably signifying why it's worn. It should really sit there and not fall through. So, right, I've reassembled that now. I've actually put a washer in between that boss. So the washer's sitting about there, so it's sitting on the ball joint cup, which needs to come out. And now we tighten this up. Right, let's see what this does. So we'll get that on there. We'll get that on there. Well, that made life easier, didn't it? Right, so hopefully now, if we undo this, we will have a removed ball joint cup. In fact, we don't even have to, we'll just drop it out. There we are. You can see the cup there, it's a bit damaged. But yeah, okay, we'll drop the new one in the same way around. So to get the new cup back in, I'm just using the tool in the opposite direction, and hopefully get this nice and tight. And let's give it a go. So let's go that way. I think that might be in all the way. Seems to have stopped. I shall try a bit more and then yeah, double check. Ready to assemble the ball joint. Parts go roughly in that order. Put this half in first, so that goes in from underneath and that stuff goes in from above. So I've got my grease here, just some CV grease, so I'll make sure everything's well greased, and then I'll put all these parts in turn, and yeah, put it back together. Now I think the trick is, because you've got a spring there and that spring goes under the cup, I think I'd recommend using a spring compressor or something, so I'm going to try getting a G-clamp on it instead, just to try to push this all up to get this circlip in, because I remember it being quite tricky last time. Also remember it being quite tricky to put the sort of the spring washery things around the rubber gaiter. So wish me luck. Right, with the ball joint and the cap well greased, or the little, not the cap, the lower seat I guess you'd call it, we'll push that in. I'm hoping the stickiness of the grease will hold it in place. Yes. So now we need the spring, and I'm going to take my gloves off. The spring, well actually we'll put a little bit of grease on that to make it sticky. Spring, and then we need this, and we also need the little lower ring going in as well. So let's try and do that. Let's try and put the O-ring in. O-ring's in, and now the little base. So obviously you can see you've got to compress that spring. It's quite hard to do. So I'm hoping I can do it with my G-clamp and then wind it up. Well, the G-clamp wasn't cutting the mustard, so I decided to get out a trolley jack, but then that wasn't doing it either because it was swinging through an arc, so I've ended up going for an old scissor jack off an old car. So now I've just got this really tricky job of putting in the circlip. And I'm not even sure if I've lifted this up far enough to get the circlip in. I mean, if I wind the jack anymore, it's actually lifting the Land Rover up. So, and I don't really want to do that because it's sort of bending the suspension sort of drop arm. So let's see if this will go. And it's back together. I didn't actually film the moment. I gave up filming for some time. It took me several hours to get to this stage. Basically what I concluded was the spring, which goes in underneath, was too thick. And I guess it was too thick for the new unworn cup. Just would not go in. I could get the plate in the bottom, but I could not get the circlip in. I couldn't even get it close to going in. I tried using a jack to lift everything up. I tried using a gear puller, bearing puller thing, which I went out specially to get. No luck. So in the end, I've ended up replacing the standard spring with a spring washer. And it's, even so, I really struggled to get that circlip in. But it's in, it's tight. Everything's torqued up. I gave up on the little springy clip things. Just ended up using some lock wire instead. Much easier. And the split pin is in at the top. So, and more importantly, there's no play in it. Obviously it rotates a bit, but there's no play. So hopefully that'll mean I'll now pass the MOT. And that's just an example of some of the tools I've had to use to get this done. Pretty much half the garage I've had to bring outside. Great. And just out of interest, the cup which I pushed in, it was actually fully up. There was a little gap around the top. It's supposed to be that way. And here's the parts diagram from the Land Rover manual. And you can see the cup there has a little air gap above it. Full focus. Yeah, so it was in the right place all along. And I'm back from the MOT retest, and it's a success. So tester was happy with that ball joint repair. It all stayed together on the drive there and the drive back. So yeah, fairly happy with that. I think I'll just need to keep an eye on it on that lock wire stuff I've put on. But yeah, that's quite good. So I've actually turned this into two videos. There's a separate one for the welding and a separate one for this ball joint because yeah, I think the ball joint deserved its own video. It was that much of a pain. So yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.